Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, I'd like to tell you this, that I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I like to get us started because, normally when I'm with people, hi Jane, I always have some activity for them to do. So I want you, if you have anything, so you could get off mute, because I like to hear your breath in the room. And one thing I would like you to do, if you can get off mute, I don't know, I think you guys have control to do that. And I'll count the ready, set, go. And I want you to find anything that you can on your desk, in your house that you could bang on. Right? I have shakers. All right. I came prepared. And so I want us to spend just a few seconds, like creating some energy in the room, because oftentimes when we're in the virtual space, we're sitting here and on mute forever. So ready, set, go. Let's make some noise. Let's make some noise for each other. Yep, turn on your microphones and let's make some noise just to make sure that everyone is like, thank you. Thank you. Glasses, forks, whatever it is. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, bring it in. Bring it on in. Yeah, bring that energy to the room, because I just want to let you know, and some of you I do know, let's let you know that when you come to any workshop that I do, I put you to work. So you're not going to sit around and listen to me talk all day. You would be spending some time doing work with each other in different rooms. So let me go ahead and start sharing again. And my name is Dave. My name is Dr. Dave Cornelius. Our topic today is I have an idea, and I need to know if there are customers willing to pay for it. This is something near and dear to my heart as an entrepreneur, and I'll just give you a little background about who I am as an entrepreneur. This is something that I care about a lot. So, I'm a servant leader. I'm an entrepreneur, coach, and trainer. Throughout my career, I've delivered over about $1 billion in customer value. I'm an advisor down at the University of Arizona for some of their entrepreneurs. I'm a founder of this program called 5 Saturdays. It's my heartthrob. Really love that program. And I have several books available on Amazon right now. I'm still working on Deliver Value. Because of COVID, I did not release this book because I think I have a different context based on this experience so far. A little bit about my background. And I'm really glad to be here. Oftentimes, I come up and speak at the meetup in Phoenix. As I live in Tucson, Arizona, I would drive up there and speak at different meetups with Perry and those guys. Today, our learning objectives, right? We're going to obtain some skills to define a customer problem that's worth solving. We want to look at some techniques to capture insight from customer conversation, brainstorm to identify some ideas. We're not going to do design sprint because of the time limitation. But we'll just use design thinking as the core to help us validate a hypothesis for an idea. And then we're going to test that. We're going to define and test some ideas with potential customers. So the target audience for this topic is product managers, product owners, UX designers, entrepreneurs, portfolio stakeholders, and I said the product development team, which includes the Scrum Master, PO, and the development team themselves. Key topics we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about hypothesis and lean innovation, design thinking. We'll cover the value proposition canvas. I'll give you some insights into brainstorming, and we're going to do some A/B testing your ideas. So we're going to be working together today. I want to begin and just let you know that every idea is a hypothesis. And I took the time, and I often do this, is take the time to find a dictionary meaning so that we could have common understanding around the word hypothesis. So it's a supposition or proposed explanation made based on limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation. So whatever we have in our mind's eye, I believe that we start with a hypothesis. I have an idea. Then we go off and we do an experiment. I build an increment. And then we're going to validate, did it work? And then we start back with a modified hypothesis. This is a typical lean innovation cycle. or what I would call science. I believe I learned something like this when I was in middle school, and I think some of us have as well. But I just wanted to point that out, that as we come up with our wonderful ideas that, oh, we're going to make $10 million with this idea. Yeah, sure. I've heard that many times as a developer, and have been railroaded by many wonderful, well-meaning people who believed that their ideas would make lots of money for the company. And they had no further investigation to let us know how this is going to work. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today walking through that process of how will this work and how it should work if we have a great idea and we take that hypothesis and make it something useful for our teams of our organization to benefit from. So here's my hypothesis. I'm going to start with one because we're going to play with this as we go through today, and you could create your own. And that's the wonderful things about my workshops. There's lots of freedom for innovation. So here's my hypothesis. Because of COVID-19, people will use chatbots and mixed reality, which is augmented reality or virtual reality, for learning and development. And so, of course, my chatbot is going to be Dr. Dave. He's going to be our chatbot, and we're going to do mixed reality. So this is my hypothesis. This is what I think. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I believe because we're distance, we need a little bit more interactivity, and we need someone to talk to, because some of us get lonely. I know I do. So the reason I'm talking to you about this is that as I have a hypothesis, there's this thing called a hype cycle. It was made more famous by Jeffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm. And we always start off, at the very bottom over here at the innovators, when we start off with an idea and we build something, call it a minimum viable product, an MVP. We bring something out, it's about, we have some innovators, research says about 2.5%, and those are the people that you see hanging out in line for some new Apple product, right? I mean, they're hanging out in line for days. They're willing to take wherever the product is at the point in time. And they're willing to spend whatever money it is to get that product because they're innovators. They care about the novelty of the product. Sometimes it's a hobby for them. As we go through this hype cycle, it starts to get some hype, right? There's some level of inflated expectation from the product. And then we start to, the early adopters start to sneak in, right? And the early adopters, they're looking for some breakthrough opportunities. So there's about 13.5% of the market who would come in and start buying your product, right? And they start to, tweet about your product. They start to respond to your blogs. They start to make videos about it, but then they find out that, product isn't working that well. And this is where comes the trough of disillusionment, right? This is the chasm, right? In order for your product to work really well and get to market, it has to get beyond the trough of disillusion so we can get into the early majority, right? These are the wonderful people who are really practical minded. They find useful ways of bringing it into the organization. And that's about 34% of the market. And so if we don't get here, we have wasted a lot of energy and time building a product without really going through the validation process. And this is where design thinking comes in, right? It gives us an opportunity to use an iterative process to seek to understand our users, challenge assumptions, sometimes even redefine the problem in an attempt to find alternative strategies and solutions, right? That may not be instantly apparent with our initial level of understanding. So as we go through the chasm, early maturity, and then we get to that slope of enlightenment. We're learning lots of stuff because now we have almost close to half of the market at that point in time giving us feedback. Then we get into the late majority. And finally, they're the laggards. These are the people who are, fine, it works, I'll buy it. And I'll give you a story because my brother-in-law is a laggard. He got a gift from his daughter to what did he get? Audible, and he has an iPhone 5. And so all of the features of Audible wouldn't work on his iPhone 5. And you know what we have? We have iPhone 12 at this point in time. Right? This is where we are. But he just finally went and bought an iPhone 11. So he's a typical laggard. Would not be in line waiting for a new product to come out. He would wait 5 or 6 generations before he invests. This is the reason I'm explaining this to you is such that our wonderful idea will die in the trough of disillusion if we don't spend the time validating and having conversation with customers and testing the market. So when you look at design thinking as a practice, there's 3 key things that we try to do, right? We want to understand, what is the customer's jobs to be done? What pains do they have? And what gains do they want from your product? The other aspect of it is that we have to create and generate ideas, and that's going to happen through collaboration with members of our teams, also members who are customers as well. And then finally, we have to deliver something, right? And the best way to do that is through some MVP prototype. We test and we get customer feedback. So the essence of the way design thinking works, the flow, we begin with empathy, then we define, then we ideate, prototype, and then test. And it's a cycle, it's a loop, because we test, we discover something after having a conversation with a customer, we loop back around and have some empathy for, why are they struggling with our products? Why aren't more people buying most of our products for the design thinking model? So with the wonderful hypothesis that I had, that because of COVID-19, people will use chatbots and mixed reality for learning and development, I need to identify what is the problem that we're really trying to solve here. And so for me, my assumption is that because I can't play the ballpoint game is one of the reasons why we need to have AR and VR, right? And some chatbot having a conversation with me, trying to walk me through the process. This is the problem that I think that I'm trying to solve. So one thing that you do in the design thinking practice is that we always reframe the problem as a question. And it always starts with, how might we? And so it's, how might we play the ballpoint game virtually? That's the problem that I think I have to solve. I'm not sure, but that's my assumption based on my hypothesis, which is driven from my idea. So what I would like us to do in our first activity, we're going to go off in a virtual room for about 5 minutes. You could use my hypothesis if you want, right? And I said my hypothesis, because of COVID-19, people will use chatbots and mixed reality for learning and development. You could use mine. And then I want you to identify one problem other than the one that I thought about. And then I want you to frame the problem as a question. You want to frame the problem as a question as, how might we, whatever, beyond what to me, the ballpoint game is just a wonderful thing. And I miss that as a trainer and as a coach. And so I'm thinking that, we need to come up with a virtual way of doing this that's really fun. And, I want to see what you're going to come up with. I am going to stop sharing for now. And I'm going to ask Emily if she would kindly maybe put people in 3 to 4 people per room. And then we'll go from there.
Okay, let me.
What is the ballpoint game? Is that relevant for the breakout? So the ballpoint game itself is a game where people are trying to move a ball from a start point to an end, and it makes some estimates. They figure out, like, how long, if I had 2 minutes of time, how long would it take me to move a ball? I think I have one here somewhere, right? And it could be many balls. How long would it take me? Yes, back here. How long would it take me to move this ball through 4 or 5 people? And then there's some other rules. So it's just it's a game about how do we collaborate and learn to work well together. And guess what? You don't have to use my hypothesis. use your own. Feel free to come up with your own as you work as a group. Come up with your own problem, and then we'll go for 5 minutes. I will go ahead and share again, so at least you could see the work. And Emily, if you'd be kind enough to put people in groups.
Yes.
Okay, so do me a huge, big, wonky favor, and perhaps just throw, what was the problem that you identified that started with how might we? And you can put it in the chat, and just copy and paste it as a chat as you came out of each room. And then that way we all could see how might we, right, the question that we want to ask.
So, sorry, are we putting in our problem statement in the chat? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I want you to copy it into the chat. And in this way, we all could see what everyone else, we won't speak to it for right now, because we're going to go through multiple of these small mini sessions. And I want to see exactly, and thank you. One person started, how might we engage additional learning? I love it. Yes, someone is following the instructions.
Just from what you just said right now, that's all. And from our discussion.
Thank you, Erica. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. Let's keep going. So what I'm going to do right now is play a video from IDEO. IDEO is my favorite company. They're the one who helped Apple create their computer mouse and the design of their system. They've done Free Willy. But I'll play a video so that you could see what it's like to really do design thinking. And this is a very old video. So let me go ahead and share my screen again, and then we'll come back and see, we'll have another activity. Yeah. Okay, let me make this big, small, and we're playing.
Tonight, the deep dive, one company's secret weapon for innovation. We went to IDEO, the product design folk, and said, take something old and familiar, like, say, the shopping cart, and completely redesign it for us in just 5 days. ABC News correspondent Jack Smith tells us what happened next.
9 in the morning, day one, and these people have a deadline to meet.
So welcome to the kickoff of the shopping cart project.
This is Palo Alto, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, and these are designers at IDEO, probably the most influential product development firm in the world. IDEO has designed everything from high-tech medical equipment to the 25-foot mechanical whale in the movie Free Willy, and the first computer mouse for Apple. Smith ski goggles, Nike sunglasses, NEC computer screens. Hundreds of products we take for granted.
The point is that we're not actually experts at any given area. We're kind of experts on the process of how you design stuff. So we don't care if you give us a toothbrush, a toothpaste tube, a tractor, a space shuttle, a chair. It's all the same to us. We want to figure out how to innovate by using our process, applying it.
Project leader is Peter Skillman, a 35-year-old Stanford engineer. Project leader because he's good with groups, not because of seniority. He's only been at IDEO for 6 years. The rest of the team is eclectic, but that's typical here. Whitney Mortimer, Harvard MBA. Peter Coughlin, linguist. Tom Kelly, Dave's brother, marketing expert. Jane Fulton-Suri, psychologist. Alex Kazaks, 26, a biology major, who's turned down medical school 3 times because he's having too much fun at IDEO. Safety emerges early as an important issue.
22,000 child injuries a year, and so they're hospitalized injuries. I mean, there are many others.
And theft. It turns out a lot of carts are stolen. As the team works, it becomes clear there are no titles here, no permanent assignments.
And the other side gives us a lot of help, says, be safe. I'll give you a big red ball on a post, and that says you're a big guy. If you got a ball, you're a senior vice president. You know, what do I care? The desk, the red ball, it's all the same. In a very innovative culture, you can't have a kind of hierarchy of here's the boss and the next person down, the next person down, the next person down, because it's impossible that the boss is the one who's had the insightful experience with shopping carts. It's just not possible.
The team splits into groups to find out firsthand what the people who use, make, and repair shopping carts really think.
Okay, go.
The problem with the plastic cart is the wind catches it. Yeah. And these things have been clocked at 35 across the parking lot.
Oh, man, that's actually a pretty good point. The trick is to find these real experts, and so that you can learn much more quickly than you could by just kind of doing it the normal way and trying to learn about it yourself.
From everything I read, these things aren't that safe either, you know? So probably the seat itself is going to have to be redesigned.
One of the interesting things for me is looking at how people really don't like to let go of the cart, except for the professional shopper, whose strategy is to leave the cart at various places.
3:30 in the afternoon, and the group is back at IDEO. There is no let-up.
Each team is going to demonstrate and communicate and share everything that they've learned today.
A shopping cart has been clocked at 35 miles an hour traveling through a parking lot in the wind.
We were in the store, what, 2 hours, and it was truly frightening just to see the kind of stuff going on.
You ought to designate some people to make damn sure that the store owner's point of view is represented.
After 9 straight hours, the team is tired. They call it a day.
So,
everybody cool?
Well, that's great. Thanks a lot. We had a great time today.
IDEO's mantra for innovation is written everywhere. One conversation at a time. Stay focused. Encourage wild ideas. Defer judgment. Build on the ideas of others.
That's the hardest thing for people to do, is to restrain themselves from criticizing an idea. So if anybody starts to nail an idea, they get the bell, you know.
The ideas pour out and are posted on the walls.
Oh, the blind, the privacy blind. Like when you're buying 6 cases of condoms, no one sees. If it doesn't nest, we don't have a solution.
Organized chaos. It's not organized. What it is it's focused chaos.
Vote with your Post-it, not with an idea that's cool, but with an idea that's cool and buildable. If it's too far out there and it can't be built in a day, then I don't think we should vote on it. Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of lone genius.
Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of the lone genius. If anything sums up IDEO's approach, that is it. Worried that the team is drifting, what can only be called a group of self-appointed adults under Dave Kelly holds an informal side session.
4 or 5 teams. 4 or 5 teams, and we give each team a need area. It becomes very autocratic for a very short period of time in defining what things people are going to work on.
If you don't work under time constraints, you could never get anything done, because it's a messy process and go on forever.
Back at the shop, it is 6 o'clock, and the 4 mock-ups are ready for showing.
Baskets also can be, if you think you will have more volume, baskets can be put in.
A modular shopping cart you pile hand baskets onto. A high-tech cart that gets you through the traffic jam at checkout.
That you could mount a scanner on the shopping cart so that you, as the customer, as you pull it off the shelf, would scan each item.
One that's built around child safety, and another that lets shoppers talk to the supermarket staff remotely.
Yeah, where can I find the yogurt?
But the adults, again, decide more work needs to be done before the mock-ups can be combined into one last prototype.
Why don't we have all the carts come up here for a second?
I think you take a piece of each one of these ideas and kind of back it off a little bit and then put it in the design.
The design is still not there. But there's another motto at IDEO: fail often in order to succeed sooner. And some of the team will be up half the night trying to put together a design that finally does work.
There it is! There it is! So we took the best elements out of each prototype.
The cart, which is designed to cost about the same as today's carts, is different in every other way.
What do you think?
Well, I'm very proud of the team. I think it's great.
Does this work for you?
Works for me great. It's also beautiful.
The cart's wheels turn 90 degrees so it can move sideways. No more lifting up the rear in a tight spot. And you shop in a totally different way. The bags are hung on hooks on the cart's frame. Remember, there is no basket here.
At first, I was a little shocked, but I think you have some fantastic ideas here. It needs a little refining, but I think that it's great. I mean, we would want them.
She also gave us some really good comments about how we can make this thing better.
A lot of hours. Also, an open mind, a boss who demands fresh ideas be quirky and clash with his, a belief that chaos can be constructive, and teamwork, a great deal of teamwork. And these are the recipe for how innovation takes place. This is Jack Smith for Nightline in Palo Alto, California.
So I'm going to stop sharing because we're going to do another exercise. And that exercise, let me go ahead and upload from my computer, exercise number 2. And what I want you to do, and I'm just going to spend a few seconds before we do 5 minutes. Let me share again. I should do that first. Let me share the screen really quick. Perfect. What I would like you to do is watch the video. And I want you to spend, it says 8 minutes, but we're only going to spend 5. And I want did you observe empathy? Did you see him defining what the problem is? Did you see people ideating? Did you see prototypes? And did you see testing? Just spend 5 minutes having that discussion, because when we use design thinking as a process, this is what it looks like. It's kind of messy. There is a structure, and you have people who are guiding the process, right? I mean, so you may have a UX designer involved in this. You may have a product owner or product manager. You would have a scrum master if you're doing agile practices. And you may even have, and you would have the development team as part of that, the product development team as part of the process. So I'm gonna stop sharing. And if we could go in, I already uploaded the image, so we could start looking and do that for another 5 minutes. And all what I want you to do, there's five activities that happens in design thinking. Is there empathy? Are we defining, right? And are we prototyping? Are we testing? And so, Emily, if we could put them in rooms again, then this would give us an opportunity for them to spend 5 minutes just having that discussion, just based on the video, see what your observation is, and then see if you could call out each one of those 5 things. And when you're finished, come back and put them in the chat, because in this way we get to share back with the group. Any questions about that? I think we should have just about everyone back. Feel free to throw your insights or place your insight. You can't throw it, or copy or paste your insight into the chat, just to see what you've identified. Because what's going to happen is after this session is over, we'll send this chat file out. At least we'll be able to go back and see what took place today, since we're moving at a nice fast pace. And so we're going to keep going, because we're going to go in to start talking about value proposition. I know you may have questions, but we're going to keep going because I'm trying to manage our time. Get up there. Okay. So now that you have observed the chaos and the wonderfulness of the design thinking process, we have an idea. We came up with this hypothesis, and now we think we have some assumptions around the problem, right? We're not really sure, but we think that we know, and we haven't talked to any customers yet. So one of this value proposition canvas is one way to help us understand the customer profile and whatever we're offering up as a value, call a value map. I like to start, the best way, in my opinion, is to start on the right, because we should always be customer centric. And the first thing that I care about is customer jobs. What jobs do the customer want done? And so dry cleaning, for example, is a job that customers want done. So, nowadays we don't go to the dry cleaning as much, because I haven't worn a collared t-shirt in months. Collared shirt. The same thing is going to McDonald's. What job is a mother trying to get done with her kids in the back seat, right? She's trying to get them fed. I don't know if they still give out fun gifts, but maybe she's trying to do that. She's trying to calm them down. So that's one of the jobs that you're looking at when you're looking at the customer profile. Based on your idea, you don't know this yet, but you need to ask these questions, and we'll get to that as a next activity. What pains are they having at this point in time? And then also what gain are they looking for, based on your hypothesis and the problem that you're trying to solve, right? And you're trying to get to see is there a fit? Because now I'm going to start off with, here are my products and services, things that I have to offer. Do they have pain relievers for this customer pains? Is it a gain creator for this customer gain? So you could see that we're trying to create a map and a relationship between what the customer want, their jobs, their needs, their pains, their gains, and how is our product really solving, that scenario. At this point in time, we probably don't know because we haven't spoken to them yet. But as we go into the next activity, we will. We will take this same scenario and see what are the pains, gains that we're trying to satisfy with whatever idea that you came up with. So as we go through the process of gathering insights, it's about learning about the customers, right? So yeah, we have our wonderful ideas. That's great. So the thing is that we want to get some insights and come from some level of data analysis. And there's two sources for that, right? One is your primary data sources, which is you talking to people, having interviews. The second is research. So it could be MIT Sloan, HBR, Gartner, whoever. That's your secondary data source, right? And one of the things that we want to really focus on is empathy in our conversations with our customers. So the first two steps in the design thinking process is empathy and define. And that's what we're going to focus on in the next activity. Here's the activity. So you're going to work as a team. You're going to use whatever problem that you have defined, or it could be mine. Simple thing is we want to look at some powerful questions, right? What questions are we going to ask about the jobs to be done? And what questions we're going to ask for the customer's pain. We need to discover this because we just don't know. And even though we think we do, you will discover that whatever you thought it was totally different after having a conversation with the customer. So sample questions. What keeps you up at night? Is there a question I should have asked? What else who else should I interview? And my favorite is tell me more about that. Right? And so because we're trying to just gather information, more knowledge, so that we could be empathetic toward the needs of our customers. So this is the next activity. Let me stop sharing. And I'm going to upload that file rather quickly. And then we should be able to, my friend, when we co-train, he always says, go to your room. So I've uploaded the activity. So let's do another 5 minutes and have that discussion, right? What questions would you ask now that you have an idea, you have an hypothesis, you have a problem, you've seen how IDEO went through their process. Now, how will you? What questions would you ask your potential customer? Emily?
Okay.
Another 5. Yes, and I will go ahead and capture the last activity. All right. Thank you for coming back. If you created any questions that you discussed, feel free to throw them in the chat so that everyone else can get a chance to see them either now or later on. And we're going to keep going because we have limited time, and I don't want her to come with her cane and drag me off the stage. So we're going to keep going with this. There's this thing in IDEO called a business blueprint. Some people call it a lean business canvas or the business canvas. And one thing that we would like to do as we're beginning to go through this process, and I only wanted to focus on the first 3 elements of this, is what are we offering? What product or services will you make? You have a value proposition canvas where you begin to understand what customer needs are you fulfilling, which is the jobs to be done. And what is the unique promise, right? You understand what the pains are, what the gains are, what is that value proposition? And now after having those interviews or either primary or secondary data and doing analysis, now you can begin to start understanding who are you serving, right? Well, what are the customers that you're really focusing on to make sure that the product that you bring to market makes sense, right? And so there are many other pieces to it, but these are the top 3 that I wanted to look at today because this is, take a lot more time to do that. If we can understand what product or service will you make or deliver based on the time that you spent with your customer, what's the unique value proposition, and who are the customers. These are the top 3 things as you start to understand your business blueprint. There are other things about revenue model and price, channels, cost, partners, and the team required to build your product. But at least these first 3, give you enough information to begin having a conversation. As we're going through, we're going to skip a few of these things. I'm going to get down to skip prototyping, because let's say that we built out a prototype, we had some conversation with our customers, we're beginning to understand, okay, we think we know that they really want to have, instead of having virtual reality, they want augmented reality. They want to use a phone instead to do their learning. And surely they're going to they want to make sure that they have a chatbot who's going to remind them of things, ask them questions, right? It's Siri, Alexa, that kind of conversation going back and forth. And so we have to test our hypothesis. We need to use some level of empirical measurements. So key things that comes from the Scrum Guide, we talk about empiricism, and it says knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what's known. So if we did build a prototype and we did spend some time with our customers, understanding their pains and gains and what they want, they would help us to really evaluate and release that product, right? So we identified a problem, we defined what exactly where the prototype is. There's some focus and approach, we build and test, and then we evaluate and release. So this is a form of science that we will apply to make sure that we could use empiricism to validate what our discoveries. As you watch that video, you would notice at IDEO, they were doing lots of different prototypes, multiple different shopping carts, different configuration, and eventually they focused and figure out an approach and selected a cart that made sense, right? So one of the testing that's really common, there's multiple, but the one that most people talk about is A/B testing, right? The split or bucketing testing, right? Where you spend some time, have a control experiment, some variation, and you're going to capture the experiences of those 2 different groups of people, right? We're talking about human beings that we're interacting with, and we're going to really start capturing some metrics about what they like. One thing that people do a lot, especially in the web space, right? They build 2 different landing pages. One is controlled, one in variation. So this is a key element for testing that we could use. We don't have enough time to do the exercise, but I really wanted to point this out, that this is an opportunity for us to go back and test our prototype, validate with our customers, helping us to understand, that our idea makes sense or not, right? We're either supporting and helping to work with the early adopters, early majority, late majority, making sure that we have people to buy our products and services. So that's going to be it for me, since I'm trying to leave some space for some dialogue. I think we have like 3 minutes. I'd like to see, do we have any questions? I know we went really super fast through this because design thinking is really a big practice, but this was just to whet your appetite so that at least you could see what it is and how this could be useful in any type of product design, no matter what you're making. It could be pancakes and you're trying to sell pancakes to the marketplace. You could use this simple 5-step process to figure out, do you have customers who want the type of pancakes that you're making? I don't know why I'm thinking about pancakes, but that's what's on my mind. Any questions?
So Dave, how to find the target customers to validate ideas? So basically, for example, I'm just selling softwares and I want to target mothers of 0 to 2 years children, right? The recent mothers. How would I find those?
So there's multiple ways you could do that, right? So one simple way is, Facebook is really awesome in terms of running simple surveys, right? And so you could go in there and say, I'm going to spend $5 or $10, and this is, I do this a lot when I'm trying to figure out there's different types of customers. I'll go and spend $5 to $10 and set up maybe a 1 or 2 question surveys. And I said, here's a target of what I would like to, who I would like to respond to this. And for $5 or $10, I may get like 10 or 20 people, but that's a start, right? That's the start of a conversation that I could begin. I also use LinkedIn a lot and do kind of the same thing, right? So those are ways that you could start to connect with customers as well. You don't want friends and family because they're going to be nice to you, right?
Right. Thank you so much. Yes, this answers my question. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, good. So we have about a minute. I would love to get your feedback. I am going to mercifully ask you to, I'm going to throw this in the chat for feedback. So if you could grab that link and give me some feedback on how I did today, that would be awesome. And I wanted to tell you about one more thing before I go, or before we go, because they're going to kick us off of this program pretty soon. Emily is anyway. I'm picking on Emily. So I run a simple program that it's a STEM program. And so I work with high school kids. I teach them how to build software. We teach them Agile practices. And every year we give out about 2 to 4 scholarships to students who have attended our program and become part of our leadership. So the program is called 5 Saturdays. I'm going to put a link in there. This is a no pressure kind of thing. If you choose to, awesome. If not, share it with your network. So what we do is raise money to make sure that underserved students could learn these skills that I am sharing with you, and they could become our future leaders, right? There's tons of people who can't afford to pay to come to conferences. And so 13 to 19-year-old is my target audience. And those are the people that I work with and help. Thanks a lot. Take care.